that, I'd like to introduce Mary Covington, the treasurer of the Texas Association of Specialty Courts and its former president. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start by asking you to tell me about yourself.
I'm a native Texan. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. I've worked in criminal justice for about 30 years, the last 19 in specialty courts and specialty dockets. I was the first drug court coordinator for Harris County, starting in 2003. I worked with Judge Mark Carter to bring the first Veterans Treatment Court to Texas in 2009. And most recently, I am the court manager for a specialty docket that has the opportunity to work with 4,500 to 5,000 drug offenders in the criminal justice system, kind of taking what we've learned from drug courts and expanding that to people, offering them treatment instead of incarceration.
Okay, I'm told that you're treasurer for life of this system.
I don't know. It feels like I've been treasurer for life. I've served on the board since 2004, so it's past time for me to go. But it's a passion of mine, and I really enjoyed that interaction. I've met some of my best friends being associated with that association and serving on that board. And I think it's really allowed me to help not only the courts in Harris County, but across the state, really develop into programs that we're all very proud of.
Good. So how did the Texas Association of Specialty Courts start?
Well, we started in 1998 as the Texas Association of Drug Court Professionals. My history is a little vague, but I do know that Judge Joel Bennett, who is a former board member of NADCP, was the founding president of the association. Back then we had specialty courts or drug courts in Travis County, where he was from, Dallas County, and Jefferson County, which is a little county, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange, what we call the Golden Triangle. They actually had the first specialty court in Texas, and they don't get a lot of credit for that, but they had a board member on that board. And so that's how it got started, and it evolved.
Those groups started the association?
Yes.
And so how do you become a member?
So we have several ways to become members. We have an associate membership that is for somebody that's not associated with a court but has an interest in what we're doing. We have then regular memberships. We have lifetime members. Our past presidents are all awarded a lifetime membership, but we also have that you can buy a lifetime membership. We also have a sustaining membership for firms or organizations that want to help further the cause of the association. So you can be associated with a drug court or a specialty court. You can also be a supporter of a drug court or specialty court and be a part of our...
How many members do you think you have?
We have, right now we have about 600. We also offer, though, one of the things we do is we offer a membership to anybody attending our state conference.
Okay, so then it's going to be much larger than that because your conference is larger.
We are back up. We were pushing 700 pre-pandemic. We had our conference in April of this year, and we had about 600. So,
okay. So, and when do you do your conference?
We typically do them in the spring, March or April. We try to do them around the state based on where we have a collection of specialty courts, but we try to spread it around. Texas is a big place, and it's hard to get from El Paso to Houston or El Paso to Dallas or Amarillo to Houston.
I'm aware of that.
So we try to put them in places that it's a little more convenient for everybody to get to.
Because, I mean, in some ways, isn't West Texas closer to LA than it is to East Texas?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. It's tough. So it's a full day travel even if you fly. So we try to spread the wealth around.
So you move the conference to different places?
We sort of are like this conference is with it, and even in Texas, we do things bigger and better. When you have 600, 700 people, there are not a lot of locations that can accommodate that large a crowd.
Okay, but you've done it in Austin, I know.
We did it in Austin once, but that was really hard. We had to move to Bastrop to have our conference. There wasn't a hotel big enough in the Austin area that would accommodate us or give us the state rate for as many people as we needed. So that's that double. We have to make sure we can get a reasonable rate for the hotels for our conferences.
When you do your conference, I assume it covers the waterfront. It includes all the different types of courts? We
do. And that was one of the things we really tried to focus on, is making sure that we have enough presentations, enough information for courts that are not as well represented across the state as our drug courts. We want to really focus on the mental health courts, our veterans treatment courts, our family intervention courts. There's a tribal court in El Paso that we try to, when we can, bring in somebody that will help them. There's a employee assistance court in Tarrant County now that works with public safety officials.
Really?
Yeah, and that's new, and I think they're the first ones in the country, and I don't know enough about it, but really, trying to figure out now for our next conference what we might do to really assist them and maybe encourage other communities to start the same kind of program.
So how can people find information about your conference?
It's always on our website, tasctx.org. And probably we probably have the information from our last conference, but our membership levels, our conference information is all on that website.
And if a person wants to get involved in your association, they want to do more than just go to the conference or be a member, how can they do that?
That's one of our challenges, is I wish we had more people who wanted to do that. And we have committees that people can serve on. We have standing committees, which is our bylaws committee, our legislative committee, we have a membership committee. So, getting people involved is really one of those things. They'd love to come to the conference, but then getting them to try to commit to really being a part of the association and being a part of the things that will sustain and move us forward, that's a little more difficult.
And what would be the best way? So let's assume that there's a prosecutor out there that wants to get involved. How would they do that?
I would recommend that they get in touch with our executive director. She is with the Correctional Management Institute at Sam Houston State University. She kind of is our executive director and handles all of our questions, but also just to reach out to one of the board members, and all of those people are listed on our website as well.
And they can find that through the website.
Yes, sir.
The first step really is to go to the website, and then they can follow up through that. Is
yes,
that right?
Absolutely.
That's really good.
Absolutely.
So what other services does your association provide besides the annual conference?
So we do a quarterly newsletter that allows us to sort of highlight the things that are going on with our courts across the state. We also really just recently started an education and outreach program that is allowing us to take what we do, what specialty courts do across the state, to other organizations and associations to really help get the word out of what good things are going on in our specialty courts. And I think that promotes across the state what our courts are doing. And then we also have through the Correctional Management Institute of Texas, the Specialty Courts Resource Center that is also on our website. And they really are the clearinghouse for all training, resources, information. Any drug court team or member or anybody interested in drug court can go to them for a lot of helpful information.
So in your website, you can actually go to this resource center, which you guys have created with the university.
It's actually the governor's office is the one who who started it or who funded it, but we're associated with them. Our executive director is also the director of that Specialty Courts Resource Center. So we promote it, we support it. They do a lot of really good things. It's really helpful for, I think, our members to be able to go to one spot.
And does that include best practices?
So starting September 1st, the Specialty Court Resource Center will be rolling out the best, capital B, little e, capital S, capital T, assessment through the MPC research. And it's an automated online tool for courts to go in and complete questions about their practices and procedures. And then the assessment will measure how the programs are being operated with fidelity to best practices.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
You must be excited.
We are very excited about that and looking forward to seeing what comes from that.
Wow, and that's something your members will be able to use anytime.
I think they will be, they can go and ask for those assessments, or the governor's office will require some programs to do it in order to get grant funding.
What do you think the greatest challenges your association is facing?
I think getting members to actively participate. I think getting courts to look outside the box as to what kind of clients or participants they're looking for to expand their eligibility based on assessment and not necessarily based on offense. I think there's different prosecuting across the state. There's some movement towards decriminalization, some legalization. So if you're just looking at people who are charged with a possession case in the justice system, those people are going to be few and far between going forward. And really encouraging our jurisdictions to really look at people who have a substance use disorder in their criminal justice system that would benefit from a specialty court program.
So if I understand you correctly, you're talking about your association challenge is to try and unify the different practices of the local courts. Is that what I'm
Not
understanding?
necessarily that, but really challenging them to look at their eligibility and expanding that to serve more people. I think that's probably what I would say really is our challenge. And one of the things we spend a lot of time talking about is how can we serve more? I mean, we're a big state. Specialty courts still only touch a drop in the bucket of the total number of people who are justice involved. And how can we encourage our courts to really try to do more for more?
Well, you've grown a great deal over the years.
Absolutely.
I mean, I had the great pleasure of being down with your board leadership during your strategic planning a few years back, and I was very impressed at the commitment of the board to improving the drug courts in Texas. So I think you've got a lot of good people there.
We do, and we've done some pretty amazing things. One of the best things I think the association has done is really develop a legislative committee with the help of Judge Paul White out of Angelina County, who I believe you met when we were there. He has always been very concerned about sustainability, and so we've worked with our legislature, and this past year passed the Ruben G. Reyes Act, which allocates 1% of all the mixed beverage tax revenues specifically to specialty courts.
That's impressive.
It was unanimously voted on out of both the House and the Senate of Texas, which never happens, just a really tribute to Judge Reyes. We have looked at it from September 1st to June 1st, September 1st of 2021 to June 1st of 2022. There's been over $8.8 million.
And that's all going to
It's all going to specialty courts. It cannot be used for anything else. So we're looking at an estimate $11 million into the first fiscal year.
And you're going to have the challenge of figuring out how to spend that money.
That's going to be left up to the governor's office and our specialty courts advisory council, but absolutely. But one of the things that allow the state to do is fund new programs, which we haven't been able to do in a number of years.
Let's pause a minute. You mentioned Judge Reyes, who I knew for a long time prior to his passing. And he's obviously a giant in Texas, and I know he was a friend of yours.
He was my biggest cheerleader.
Was he really?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he had a major impact both in Texas and nationally.
He did. And that was, just started from we were desperate to have a president of our state association. And one of his team members in Lubbock talked him into doing it, and the rest is history. I mean, he went on to be board chair here, just really a force to be reckoned with, not only in Texas, but in the nation, about bringing best practices and making sure that we codified them, and we implemented our programs with fidelity to have the best possible outcomes for our participants.
The two greatest names coming out of Lubbock would be Buddy Holly and Judge Reyes.
Maybe Judge Reyes and Buddy Holly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that turns out to be the case, because this act should provide tremendous support for your special.
This is absolutely sustainable funding for our programs going forward.
And how did you make the transition from calling yourself the Texas Association of Treatment Courts to the Texas Association of Specialists?
Well, your wife had a lot to do with that. We had a strategic.
Let's pause.
Okay.
Karen McKenzie, former director of the Michigan Association of Treatment Court Professionals.
Okay. So we had a couple of strategic planning sessions, and one of them, we had a long conversation about how we could be more inclusive. We were the Texas Association of Drug Court Professionals, and we had mental health courts, juvenile, family courts, veterans treatment court, and a tribal court in El Paso, and we really thought that the Texas Association of Drug Court Professionals was very limiting. And so she really challenged us to take a look at what else it could be, and we were concerned about what the National Association of Drug Court Professionals would think about us changing our name. And so she really encouraged me to reach out to Wes Huddleston and just ask him. And he was very open and said, Mary, if we could change our name, we would. I would really encourage you to do that, to be more inclusive of the programs that you're helping and you're serving in your communities. So
you guys were, as I recall, it was quite a struggle at that time.
It was, and we had it for a lot of good reasons. I mean, people were stuck on, it was kind of that legacy of Judge Reyes, of Judge Joel Bennett, of Judge John Creuzot. They had been presidents of the Texas Association of Drug Court Professionals. But I think, at the end, we really came to agree that we needed to be serving all the courts, specialty courts in our state.
And that was a good change.
It was a good
when
change.
you started the mental health courts, and particularly the veterans treatment courts, which are big in Texas, that allowed for that, didn't it?
It did. And it kept them from branching off and starting their own associations, and really enables us to really focus all of our serve in one unique area.
So I think I've sort of touched on this slightly, but how do you think you can improve your specialty courts in the state of Texas?
So one of the things that we're going to start doing hopefully soon is having a peer review board or peer review teams that can go to jurisdictions that are struggling, but using the information on that best assessment, and go in and help teams really implement best practices, implement services that are helpful and not harmful, and then help all the programs get better with this help of this really specialized team that it can either go or send one individual if there's one section of the program that's not doing well, like they need help with their coordinator or their help with their judges or just the whole team. Really being able to deploy teams to those jurisdictions that need assistance and help them to really adhere to best practices.
That sounds like it's a very exciting development because there are courts that are always in need of assistance.
And I think exactly. And they can either request it or the governor's office can require it to continue funding. So there's two ways that they'll be able to access those services.
So that leads me to sort of the final question, which is, where do you see the association 10 years from now?
I hope that it's really expanded to continue to work legislatively to make sure that we are including anybody who could benefit from drug courts or specialty courts and not having any eligibility issues. It's allowing people that participate in specialty courts to have their cases non-disclosed or expunged in a shorter period of time. So some legislative stuff, but really expanding, really being a more inclusive board, representing all areas of our state and all different types of courts, and not just, we can get really focused on the courts that have the jurisdictions that have the most courts in them, which will obviously be Dallas County, El Paso County, Harris County, but really trying to make sure that we are also serving those rural counties like Lubbock and some of the counties in the Valley, and really just being inclusive and expansive.
With that, I want to thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Again.
It's so good to see you.
And
Appreciate all that you
really
do.
Appreciate you taking the time to come and join us at Justice Week.
Thank you.